My father threw me out when I was 18. 20 years later, he was dying, and suddenly I needed something only I could give him, a kidney. But that wasn't what shocked me. What shocked me was the secret my late mother had hidden for decades, a secret that exposed why my father had spent 20 years convincing everyone that I had abandoned the family. But before we start today's story, please subscribe to the channel and like this video. My name is Ethan Brooks, and I'm 38 years old. For most of my life, I believed my father hated me. Not the kind of hate that comes from arguments or disappointment. I mean the kind of hate that makes someone erase your existence. The kind that makes a father point at the front door and tell his own son to get out and never come back. I still remember that night. I was 18 years old. It was 2 weeks after my high school graduation. My father, Richard Brooks, came home from work looking angrier than usual. He didn't say hello. He didn't ask how my day had been. He walked straight into my room carrying a black trash bag. At first, I thought he was cleaning. Then he started throwing my clothes into it. "What are you doing?" I asked. He didn't answer. He just kept stuffing my belongings into the bag. "Dad," his face turned red. "You heard me," he snapped. "Get out." I froze. "What? You're not living under my roof anymore." I thought he was joking. Then he grabbed my backpack and threw it toward me. I looked at my mother. She was standing in the hallway. Her eyes were full of tears, but she didn't say a word. That scared me more than my father's shouting. "Tell me what's going on," I said. My father stepped closer. "So now you want answers? What are you talking about? You know exactly what you've done." To this day, those words still haunt me, because I genuinely had no idea what he meant. I kept asking him to explain. He never did. Instead, he dragged my bags outside and dumped them on the lawn. Then he pointed toward the street. "If I ever see you here again, I'll call the police." I waited for my mother to stop him. She didn't. She looked completely broken, as if she wanted to tell me something but couldn't. That was the last night I ever spent in my childhood home. The next morning, I slept on a friend's couch. 3 days later, I left town. What hurt most wasn't losing my home. It was what happened afterward. My father told everyone that I had abandoned the family. Nobody knew the truth, because nobody asked. Relatives stopped calling. Friends disappeared. Neighbors looked at me like I was some ungrateful kid who had walked away from loving parents. Everywhere I went, people treated me like a traitor, and my father never corrected them. Over time, I stopped trying to defend myself. I focused on surviving instead. I worked construction jobs, loaded trucks, cleaned warehouses, anything that paid enough to keep a roof over my head. Life wasn't easy, but somehow I kept moving forward. Years later, I met Sarah. She was kind, funny, and stubborn in the best possible way. Most importantly, she never judged me for my past. When I told her what happened with my family, she listened quietly. Then she asked one simple question. "Do you think your father ever told you the real reason?" I didn't know how to answer, because deep down, I had wondered the same thing for years. 3 years after we met, we got married. A few years later, our daughter Lily was born. For the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged somewhere. I built a successful contracting business. Sarah became a teacher. Lily grew into the kind of daughter every parent dreams of having. Slowly, the pain faded, or at least I thought it had. Then the phone call came. The woman from the hospital sounded nervous. "Mr. Brooks, your father has advanced kidney failure." I almost hung up. Instead, I listened. "He's very sick," she continued, "and he specifically asked for you." That made no sense. My father hadn't spoken to me in 20 years. Why would he ask for me now? After the call ended, I sat in silence. That night, Sarah found me staring at the kitchen table. "You okay?" I shrugged. "No." I told her everything. The hospital, the kidney failure, the request. She listened carefully. Then she asked the question I had been avoiding. "Are you going to see him?" "I don't know." And that was the truth. Part of me wanted answers. Another part wanted nothing to do with him. A week passed. Then another. I tried to forget about it. Then something happened that changed everything. One afternoon, Lily came running into the house. "Dad!" She looked excited, confused, almost scared. "What happened?" She handed me an envelope. This was in the mailbox. There was no stamp, no return address, just my name. I opened it. The moment I saw the handwriting, my heart nearly stopped. It was my mother's. I would have recognized it anywhere. My hands started shaking. My mother had died 21 years earlier. I carefully unfolded the letter. It was short, very short. But every word felt heavy. "Ethan, if you're reading this, then something has happened to your father. There are things you don't know. Things I should have told you years ago. When the time comes, go to the cedar chest in the attic. The truth is waiting for you there. Love, Mom." I read it again and again. Then a fourth time. Sarah looked over my shoulder. "What does it mean?" I honestly had no idea, but one thing was certain. My mother had left that letter knowing one day I would find it. which meant she had been hiding something. Something important, something she couldn't tell me while she was alive. That night, I barely slept. Memories kept replaying in my head. The tears in my mother's eyes, the fear on her face, the strange way she looked at me the night my father threw me out. For the first time in 20 years, I started wondering if she had been trying to protect me. The next morning, I made a decision. I was going back. Back to the town I hadn't seen in 2 decades. Back to the house where everything had fallen apart. Back to the father who had spent 20 years destroying my reputation. Maybe the cedar chest contained nothing. Maybe it contained everything. Either way, I needed answers. 4 hours later, I crossed the town limits. Nothing had changed. The same streets, the same buildings, the same memories, and apparently, the same opinions. People recognized me almost immediately. Some stared. Some whispered. One older woman actually shook her head as I walked past. 20 years later, they still believed I was the villain. I finally parked outside the hospital. My chest felt tight. Part of me wanted to leave. Instead, I walked inside. A nurse led me to my father's room. When I stepped through the door, I barely recognized him. The strong, intimidating man from my childhood was gone. The man lying in that bed looked weak, fragile, scared. His eyes slowly opened. Then he saw me. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, he whispered something I never expected to hear. "Ethan, you need to find the chest before your aunt gets to it." I frowned. "What?" His breathing became heavier. "The attic. Dad, what are you talking about?" His eyes filled with panic. Real panic. Then he grabbed my wrist with surprising strength. And the next words that came out of his mouth made my blood run cold.
"Your mother wasn't hiding the secret from you."
He swallowed hard. She was hiding it from me. And before I could ask another question, the heart monitor beside his bed suddenly began screaming. The heart monitor screamed. Nurses rushed into the room. A doctor pushed past me and immediately started giving orders. "Sir, you need to step outside." "Dad," I shouted, but nobody was listening. Within seconds, I was standing in the hallway, staring through the glass as doctors surrounded my father. My mind wasn't focused on his condition. It was focused on his last words. "Your mother wasn't hiding the secret from you. She was hiding it from me." What did that even mean? And why had he looked so terrified when he said it? Nearly an hour later, a doctor finally approached me. "He's stable." I released a breath I didn't realize I had been holding. "Can I see him?" The doctor shook his head. "Not today." Before leaving, I asked one more question. "Did he say anything after I left?" The doctor frowned. "No. He lost consciousness shortly afterward." I drove straight to my childhood home. The house looked older than I remembered. The paint was peeling. The yard was overgrown. For the first time, it felt like my father had spent 20 years living inside a prison built from his own secrets. I still had a key. I never knew why I'd kept it. Now I did. The lock clicked. The door opened. 1,000 memories hit me at once. Some good, most painful. The house was empty, quiet, almost frozen in time. I walked upstairs, then climbed the narrow attic ladder. My heart pounded harder with every step. The cedar chest was exactly where I remembered, covered in dust, untouched for years. I knelt beside it, then slowly lifted the lid. Inside were dozens of photographs, old letters, a small jewelry box, and a thick sealed envelope. Written across the front were 4 words, "Fourth and only." My hands trembled. I opened it. Inside was a letter from my mother, a very long letter. The date at the top shocked me. She had written it 3 months before she died. I started reading. "Ethan, if you are reading this, then I am gone, and the truth has finally become necessary. Your father spent years believing something that was never true. When you were born, there was a mistake at the hospital. A serious mistake. The blood type listed on your birth records was incorrect. Years later, your father noticed that your blood type did not appear compatible with his or mine. Instead of asking questions, he created his own answers. He became convinced that I had been unfaithful. No matter how many times I denied it, he refused to believe me. The accusation slowly consumed him. Then my eyes reached the next line. The night he threw you out, he had secretly taken a DNA test. The results were delivered that morning. The test claimed he was not your biological father. I stopped breathing.
"What?"
I read the sentence again, then again. My father had thrown me away because he believed I wasn't his son. But the letter wasn't finished. The next paragraph changed everything. Years later, I discovered the laboratory had mixed up multiple samples. The test was wrong, completely wrong. I obtained proof, but by then I was already sick. I planned to tell both of you. I waited too long, and then I ran out of time. Tears blurred my vision. I continued reading. The documents proving the mistake are hidden beneath the false bottom of this chest. Your father never knew I found them. If he discovers the truth one day, he will finally understand what his pride cost him. I love you, and I am sorry, Mom. I sat there in silence, unable to move. unable to think. 20 years. 20 years of rejection. 20 years of loneliness. 20 years of being treated like a traitor. All because of a laboratory error. I opened the false bottom. My mother had been telling the truth. There were documents, official documents, letters from attorneys, correspondence from the testing company, and one final report. A second DNA test. A corrected DNA test. The result was unmistakable. Probability of paternity, 99.999%. Richard Brooks was my biological father. He always had been. The room started spinning. Everything I had believed about my life suddenly looked different. My father hadn't thrown me away because of something I did. He had thrown me away because of something he believed, and because his pride mattered more than the truth. The next morning, I went back to the hospital. My father was awake. He looked exhausted. When I entered the room, his eyes immediately found the folder in my hands. He knew. Somehow he knew. "You found it," he whispered. I nodded. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then I placed the corrected DNA report on his bed. His hands shook as he picked it up. I watched him red, the color drained from his face. Then tears began running down his cheeks. I had never seen my father cry. Not once. Not when his parents died. Not when my mother died. Never, until now. "I didn't know," he whispered. I couldn't hold my anger anymore. "You didn't know because you didn't want to know." He lowered his head. I continued. "You threw me away." Silence. "You destroyed my reputation." Silence. "You let the entire family believe I abandoned you." His shoulders started shaking. For the first time in my life, he looked small. Not physically, emotionally. Like a man finally standing in front of everything he had spent decades running from. "I was wrong," he said quietly. The words should have felt satisfying. Instead, they felt empty, because some damage can never be undone. Then he looked up. "There is something else." My stomach tightened. "Another secret?" He pointed toward a folder in his bedside drawer. I opened it. Inside was a will, a recently updated will. Everything he owned was being left to me. The house, the savings, the land, everything. "I don't want your money," I said. "I know." "Then why?" His eyes filled with regret. "Because it's all I have left to give." For the first time I saw the truth. My father wasn't trying to buy forgiveness. He knew that was impossible. He was trying to leave behind something other than pain. A few days later, the family gathered at the hospital. My Aunt Karen arrived first, then cousins, then relatives who hadn't spoken to me in decades. My father surprised everyone. He asked them all to stay. Then he told them the truth, every single part of it. The false DNA test, the mistake, the lies, the years of blame, everything. The room fell silent. Some relatives looked shocked, others looked ashamed. Aunt Karen started crying. "I treated you terribly," she said. I simply nodded. There wasn't much else to say. An apology doesn't erase 20 years, but it matters. The biggest surprise came later. My father publicly admitted the truth to the entire town. The same town that had spent 20 years believing I was the villain. People started reaching out. Old friends, former neighbors, even teachers from high school. Some apologized. Some didn't know what to say. Others simply wanted me to know they were sorry. And for the first time in 20 years, my name was no longer attached to a lie. A month later, the doctors found a kidney donor. It wasn't me. A compatible donor became available through the transplant system. The surgery was successful. My father survived. Many people expect stories like this to end with perfect reconciliation. Life doesn't work that way. We didn't suddenly become best friends. 20 years cannot be repaired overnight. But something did change. The hatred disappeared. The lies disappeared. The silence disappeared. For the first time, we spoke honestly. And sometimes honesty is the closest thing to healing. 2 years later, my father attended Lily's 16th birthday party. Watching him laugh with his granddaughter felt strange, but it also felt right. Before he left that night, he pulled me aside. "I wasted 20 years. I looked at him. "You did." He nodded. Then he said something I'll never forget. "The worst mistakes aren't the ones we make because we're fooled." He glanced toward the house where our family was celebrating. "The worst mistakes are the ones we make because we're too proud to admit we might be wrong." After everything that happened, I realized something important. The truth doesn't disappear just because someone buries it. Sometimes it takes years, sometimes decades. But eventually, the truth finds its way into the light. And when it does, it has the power to destroy families, or finally set them free. Before you go, let me know in the comments what you would have done in this situation. And if you love dramatic Reddit stories with unexpected twists and satisfying endings, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. New stories are uploaded every day. See you in the next one.